Wiley here with you on the My Favorite Things channel for another edition of Sparkle and Shine. And this month we're making a really colorful glitter-dipped rainbow birthday card. And I absolutely love this rainbow because it's kind of almost, it reminds me of like an Easter rainbow. It has more pastel-y colors rather than your primaries. And I think it's just kind of a fun way to change up that rainbow theme. So I'm going to show you how I put together this card in today's video, and I'm starting out with the Birthday Blends Die-namic, as well as this banner die from the Tag Builder 7 blueprints. And I'm running those through my die cut machine, and I'm just using some 110-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. And I'm going to keep the negative portion of these die cuts because I'm going to be using that as I stamp my sentiment today. So you're going to see I'm just going to slide that right back in the negative space, and I'm going to slide that entire thing into my mini Misty here. Now I am going to be stamping onto the die cuts, and normally I don't do this. I usually stamp first and then die cut, but with this particular stamp, I wanted to make sure everything was lined up correctly onto the die, so I die cut first. I am taking this little sentiment on the bottom and just kind of shaping it into the shape of the banner. I'm just kind of bending it along. That's the great thing about clear stamps. You can kind of take those thinner stamps and kind of bend them into a banner shape if you need to. And then I'm going to add my Birthday Blends stamps to my mini Misty. And I'm putting a piece of scrap paper behind that negative die cut portion because I'm going to stamp these images first and make sure that I have them lined up where those die cuts will be. This way I can make sure they're going to be aligned and everything's going to be hunky-dory as we move along. So I'm just going to clean those off. And originally I thought I would try to stamp all of this at once and do, you know, like that part of the happy and part of the birthday, because to build up your happy, you actually have to stamp two different stamps, and to build up your birthday, you have to stamp two different stamps because of the way they overlap. But I was finding that the letters were a little too close together to kind of ink everything and stamp all at once. So I'm just going to do one word at a time. And I'm starting out with this rainbow color palette. And this is the bubblegum ink, I believe. It's a really nice pink. And then I'm going to move on. I'm going to skip my orange because that's on my other stamp. And I'm going to move to this yellow. And this is a sunshine yellow here. And I'm inking up that P and just stamping that onto the die cut. And then for the blue, I'm going to use Summer Splash, and I'm just inking up that Y very carefully. Now, if I didn't have that birthday kind of mounted right below the happy part, it would be a lot easier to ink these up. But if you know me at all, you know I like to do things the hard way. So while I still have my stamp positioned on my Misty, I'm going to add some Versamark ink to it, and I'm also going to stamp this little sentiment here on the bottom onto this banner shape. So I've positioned that banner shape into the negative die cut portion, and then I'm just adding a little bit of Versamark ink to the bottom of this H, A, and P, that first part of the happy. And I'm going to stamp this all at once. Then I'm going to grab a hold of my die cut here, and I just have them in some tweezers, and I'm going to dip it right into some glitter gold embossing powder. This is from Wow. It's the metallic gold sparkle, and I'm going to heat set that, and that's going to give those letters kind of a glitter dipped effect. Now I have to finish stamping this sentiment, so I'm going to position this right back into the negative portion, and then I'm going to add the embossing powder and heat set this little banner here. Now, once I get that all heat set, I am going to take the second portion of this happy, which contains my other A and the other P, and I'm going to position that onto my Misty to where it's perfectly lined up with the die cut that I'm stamping on. And once again, if I want to check placement, I can go ahead and remove the die cut and stamp on that scratch piece of paper that's behind. And once I know that I have everything positioned where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and put my die cut back in, and I'm going to ink up my A with this coral color here. And then I'll use the Limelight ink for the P. And this is going to give me that pastel looking rainbow. And I really love the tones of this rainbow. I think it's really beautiful, and it's perfect for spring as well. I can totally imagine like a happy Easter card with this exact same color combination and a bunch of eggs in all of these colors. Now, once I have my colors stamped, I'm going to once again add a little bit of Versamark ink just to the bottom of these letters. I'm going to stamp it onto the die cut. And once again, I'm going to pick it up with some tweezers. I'm going to dip it into my gold glitter embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set that. And that's just going to give me a little bit of metallic sparkle along the bottom of my die cut. I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the birthday sentiment as well. So I'm starting out with the first portion of this. And you see me kind of counting here, but I am just kind of figuring out where I want each color to be, where I want the color rainbow to start on this and end. So I was just kind of figuring that out before I start my stamping. And to hold these die cuts onto that scratch paper that's behind that negative die cut portion, I'm just using a little repositionable adhesive on the back of that. Now, these letters are especially close together, and I was finding that I was getting a little over inking onto the next letter, that R there. So I went ahead and just used a piece of Post-it tape to mask that off to make sure I didn't get another color into my R there. And I'm going to move this Post-it tape and cover the B as I stamp the R, and that's just helping protect those colors from mixing together. Now, this stamp set is definitely designed where the colors mix together, but this was an area where I didn't want the colors to mix together. I think this would be a lot of fun to just stamp in 2 different tones of the same color, so 2 blues, 2 pinks, 2 reds, something like that, and give you that really cool blended effect as well. And you could always add the glitter dipping or just plain embossing powder to the bottom of this as well to give it a little extra metallic sparkle and just a little extra something, you know? So now these letters on the end are a little bit further apart, so I was able to ink a couple of those at one time and stamp them at once. Save me a little bit of time there. And then once again, just barely brushing a little bit of this Versamark ink onto the bottom of these letters and stamping it onto the die cut so that I can add my sparkle embossing powder to the bottom. Now, I prefer in this instance to pick this up with my tweezers and kind of just dip it into the embossing powder. And then if there's areas where I feel like the embossing powder goes up too high or I don't like the line, I can use a dry paintbrush and just brush away a little bit of that excess embossing powder to get the look I'm really going for. Now it's time to position the second part of this birthday sentiment and ink up all those different letters in the different colors and stamp it onto the die cut. And this sentiment is a little bit longer, has a few more letters, so I was able to bring in a purple here, and that was on the D, and that is, I believe it's grape jelly. And then I finished off with the bubble gum for the Y, the coral for the Y. And that finishes up my little rainbow. Now, once again, I'm going to do the Versamark ink, just kind of dusting the bottom of these letters, adding the embossing powder, and then heat setting that. Now, if you wanted to try this technique in a little bit different way, you could use like a glue pen and kind of dry brush effect that along the bottom of this stamped portion and add some regular glitter or do things like that, maybe even a little bit of foiling. That would be fun as well. So those are a couple of different variations of this same technique. Now I have this little birthday balloon cluster, and this is from the Birthday Bear and Friends, and I've stamped it onto some vellum, and I just heat set it to make sure that that ink dried, and I die cut it with the coordinating die cut. And now I'm just kind of arranging my elements onto my card front. Now I thought I was going to use this banner as it is. In the end, I go back and I add a little bit of gold kind of framing around it. But for now, I'm just going to position it onto my card front using a little foam adhesive. And then I'm also going to use some foam adhesive to adhere this happy birthday glittery rainbow wonderfulness. And I'm just kind of adhering it above and below the banner. And that Y does stick off just a teensy bit. A lot of times when I'm creating, I really don't think about things sticking off the edge because I think there's ways to work around that if you want to put it in an envelope. But if you wanted to like kind of scooch those over just a little bit to where it was all contained on the card front, you could absolutely do that. Now here's where I added the gold to the banner. And what I did was I just cut 2 more of these banners in some gold cardstock, and I'm adhering one to where it sticks out on the top and one where it sticks out on the bottom to give it a little bit of framing and to help it kind of be more substantial on the card. It was getting a little lost just as a white die cut. So I went ahead and added that gold framing to kind of add a little something to it. Now you can see to finish off this card, I added a little bit of gray striped tone-on-tone pattern paper. I actually created that with the bold diagonal stripes background stamp from My Favorite Things. It is one of my absolute favorites of all time, of any stamps. I make my own pattern paper with that all the time. And I'm tucking another purple balloon over there because I felt like that side needed a little something extra. And I'm going to finish off the banner with a little die cut heart in a hot pink. And I chose a hot pink to help it really kind of pop out and really kind of be a little more substantial. I didn't want it to blend in. And I'm going to finish off the balloons and the heart with a little aqua shimmer pin here from Nuvo. And I will add a layer of glossy accents over that heart. And that completes my card for today. I did add some fun gold confetti and some sparkling clear sequins to add a little bit of shimmer and shine. And that finishes off this very simple yet colorful birthday card that I think is so much fun. This card does have a lot of dimension, so it may be one that you hand deliver rather than try to stick through the mail, or you could put it in a little card box or something like that. But I think it's so much fun. You could absolutely always skip some of the layers of foam adhesive, but I like big cards, and I cannot lie. The bigger the better. If one is good, then 10 is better. That's how I live my life. And so I go big or go home, and that's just how I roll. As always, there will be links to the featured supplies used in this project in the description at YouTube, so be sure to check there if you're looking for anything in particular. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the paper crafting and card making video tutorials here. Thanks for watching and hanging out with me today, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.